Not eight, please.
Who is doing 4 again?
Me.
Mr. C.
No,
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 Me.
four
Ugo
is
Dre.
Ugo.
Okay, 3, 2, 4, 5.
3, 2, 4, 5. Yeah.
3, 2, 4, 5. 8 can now come at the end.
No. Seven.
Three,
Eight
two.
should be last, please. Make eight last.
Okay, 3, 2, 4, 5.
Yeah, because you would have done
Okay,
three.
then 1, 6. 3, 2, 4, 5, 1, 6.
One six.
Yeah, that's it. Then it's a wrap. We call it a day.
Yes,
Three,
sir.
two, four, five, one,
Yes,
six. That
boss.
means I only get to do two stories.
3 stories.
No.
4 and 5 are your stories.
Uh-huh.
Then 6 is
Oh,
your
okay,
story.
six is my story.
Thank you.
That one.
6 is the story. Have you?
Sorry.
That's on you. Oh, YouTube viewers, if we look confused at any point during the show,
No, we wouldn't.
it's them. Please speak for yourself, not for me.
You know what?
Speak for yourself, not for me. Because I don't know.
Consolidated Hallmark Insurance. Anxiety away. Value assured.
And here we are. It is 7:30 or gone past 7:30 already. And this is Freshly Pressed on Smooth Breakfast. For the next half hour, we have got Mr. C and Ugo Dre joining us for news analysis. And by us, of course, I mean Victor Pepple.
And Shokbe Martins. Remember, you can send in your messages on WhatsApp. It's 0809 4440981. Also send a tweet at Smooth981FM on Twitter. And we're streaming live on YouTube. youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. Leave a comment on the live stream and be sure we'll take your comments here on the show.
All right, so we're going to start things off. By the way, good morning, gentlemen. How are you? Nice
Good
congrats.
morning. I thought you weren't going to say good morning to us.
Good morning, Mr. Ugo. Good morning, Mr. C. We saw Mr. C yesterday. Ugo, you've been MIA for a bit, but welcome back.
We're looking for money. We're hustling.
And yet the skin is fresh. It's
Good
all
morning.
good. All right, so great to have both of you on the show with us. And as we dive into the stories, you be our lifeguards. Okay, Guardian News. Sanwo-Olu directs security operatives to enforce total ban on Okada riders. Now, we heard from the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who gave this directive yesterday during a meeting with the State Commissioner of Police, area commanders, and divisional police officers at the State House in Ikeja. And I'm going to quote him now. He said, "This is a phased ban we are embarking on this period, and we expect that within the short while when this ban will be enforced," which we're looking at June 1st, right? Okada riders in other places where their activities are yet to be banned can find something else to do. Well, Mr. C, I'm going to take it over to you, and I'll ask, considering the short time period that we have and the market that we have in Lagos, is this feasible? First of all, that this can be that Okada riders will find something else to do, considering the chaos that we saw when they were banned from certain parts of the state back in 2020. Your thoughts?
Okay. Thank you very much, Shokman. So first of all, let's circle back. On the 1st of February 2020, this was just before COVID hit Nigeria and the rest of the world. The Lagos State government had announced a restriction on the activities of commercial motorcycle operators in certain local governments of Lagos State and on certain highways. And the highways and the roads were listed and it was gazetted. Fast forward 2 years later, the menace has not abated. In fact, it has gotten worse steadily on a daily basis, culminating in the gory incident that happened in Lekki Phase 1 last week. Now, people will ask, well, I thought they were banned in 2020. They were not banned, they were restricted. Now, this is a total ban.
So, Mr. T, we've seen things and people, trades banned before and still operating and thriving even under certain security operatives' eyes.
So why I believe or I hope this total ban now will work is in the interim period since 2020, we've seen an increase in the number of last mile vehicles plying the roads in Lagos State. By last mile vehicles, I'm talking about those small white buses or other colored buses that sit about 6 to 8 people, and they take you from where the BRT buses stop or from regular bus stops into the inner parts that abut the highway. Let's not also forget that by the end of this year, the Lagos State government estimates or believes that the first phase of its metro rail project will go live, and it is expected to ferry millions of Lagosians on a daily basis to and from their homes. The ferry services have also been improved and increased, and the whole idea is to reduce the bottleneck. Now, there's no gainsaying the fact that even among the motorcycle operators or the motorcycle union, there are certain elements who ply the road on a commercial basis that cannot be controlled. And in any situation, every responsible government will prioritize the safety of its citizens over the economic well-being of a few individuals.
Now, the question I'm going to ask you is, you know, not all Okada riders are criminals or criminal have criminal elements. Not all of them engage in fisticuffs and burning people burning. Not all of them do that. So why the blanket ban on
So,
them?
so they were always going to be phased out, but this unfortunate and gory incident, I guess I forgot to say this at the beginning, our thoughts go out to the family of the gentleman who lost his life. There was always a plan by the Lagos State government to phase out not only commercial motorcyclists, but the yellow buses known as Danfo. They're going. It's just a matter of time because there is still a stated desire to make Lagos, to transform Lagos into a global city. Yes, it would seemingly take a very long time for that to happen. But if you're going to transit or morph or transform into a global city, you cannot have Okada as a means of transport. It simply is not going to work.
But it helps some of us, Mr. C. It takes, I mean, it's faster. That's what some Nigerians will tell you.
So Nigerians thrive on chaos and confusion.
I'm a Nigerian. I definitely do not.
Some Nigerians do. So
Thank
if Nigerians generally would need to learn to plan their journeys better. When we travel, we plan our journeys. Yes, we do, Shopper. Don't
Mr.
look at
C,
me. Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cut in here because
Okay.
traffic can sneak up on you like a thief in the night.
Yes. So
How do you plan for that?
we're not. Guess what? We're not the only city in the world that has traffic issues. In New York, you have traffic issues. So the truth of the
You
matter
also
is,
have the metro. You
yes,
also have the tram.
yes, that's
Are you suggesting Okada is the solution to our traffic jam?
I'm not suggesting that, but what I was saying was, Mr. C said we should plan our journeys better. I'm saying you plan, but then traffic plans for you as well.
so. The Lagos State government is trying to open up multiple modes of transportation within Lagos, and more roads, I believe, will be built.
All right.
But Okada is not the solution long term. It has to go along with Danfo. There's no moving back on this. We just have to embrace our reality and grow.
All
Well,
right.
Mr. C, as we move on to other stories and to your messages as well, because they've already started coming in, I would like to say that a stopgap is a stopgap for a reason because it's stopping the gap, the lacuna, until something else can be proffered. But if something else has not yet been proffered, then.
Well, we have the BRT buses, we have the ferries, we have the last mile buses. Yes, we do.
Keep your messages coming in on WhatsApp 0809 4440981. Let's look at this story in from the Guardian newspaper. EFCC detains ex-NDDC MD Ekere over alleged 47 billion naira. The operatives of EFCC, yesterday arrested the former managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, Sima Ekere, for alleged diversion of funds to the tune of 47 billion naira through registered contractors of the agency. I want to bring this into the conversation. The former NDDC boss, Nsima Ekere, had contested for elections in Akwa Ibom State in 2015, lost to the current governor, Odum Emmanuel, contested again on the platform of the APC in 2019, and he was just the MD at the NDDC between 2017 and 2018 for a year, Mr. C, and we're hearing 47 billion naira.
So this is a challenge I have with the EFCC. All these media trials are simply not good. You invited the gentleman for questioning, then you arrest him, then you make it public. So what happens if at the end of your interrogation, at the end of your investigation, you suddenly realize or you suddenly discover that you do not have enough material, enough evidence to charge him to court? You have sullied his name, and every time you do a Google search with his name, these sort of headlines will pop out. Now, taking the recent history, their conviction success rate compared to the number of cases they put in court should be looked at. It should be questioned. Why do we need to know at this point that you've arrested him if you're not ready to take him to court? What is the whole idea behind a media trial? So you say you're investigating 47 billion naira fraud. Are you saying he's guilty? Are you saying he has a case to answer? And then, like I said earlier, when it turns out that you don't have material or he wasn't involved, are you prepared to pay damages? When they borrow a leaf from their foreign counterparts, like the FBI, when the FBI is investigating an individual, more often than not, the individual is not aware of what is going on until he's arrested, the indictment is unsealed, and he comes face to face with the charges against him. And guess what? More often than not, once the charges are presented to the accused persons, they plead guilty because they know the game is up. The EFCC should learn to first do their investigations with or without the support of the people being investigated, and if they truly believe there's a prima facie case to answer, they should charge them to court and let them have their day defending themselves.
All right, let's look at this in from the Punch newspaper. Strike NANS to shut down all international airports. Now, the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, along with the National Association of University Students, Southwest Zone, has stated it is ready to shut down all international airports over the failure of the federal government to address lingering strike action, of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and other staff unions. Mr. Ugo, is this the way to go?
Well, if you ask Nance, they will tell you yes, that's the way to go, and they are basically taking a page from the book of aviation unions. If you recall, aviation unions gave a 2-day one strike to shut down flight operations, and the government immediately got them to the table and had this sorted out. So the students are also saying, well, aviation unions gave a 2-day one strike, shut down flight operations. The meeting was scheduled by the federal government, and the strike was called off in less than 24 hours because they think that shutting down flight operations affect quote first-class citizens. So that's what they're trying to do. But at the end of the day, this is all about this lingering ASU strike that that has gone on. I think since February now. It's gridlock continues, and government not willing to appease the lecturers. And so students are the ones suffering. So to be honest, I think that the students have actually been calmer than expected, because this is not the first time that they're experiencing a strike. In fact, I think I was reading somewhere that we've had is it 15 strikes or so in 20 years or something like that, over the last 20 years. So almost every year or every other year there is a strike, and that's because multiple governments have not been able to meet the demands of the educational sector, yet we keep opening universities, new universities, federal ones. And what the universities want basically is, I think they signed a deal for the government to fund universities about 200 billion annually over the next 5 years, which is about $1 trillion.
Mr. Ugo, I need to come in here. ASU went on strike in 2020 for 9 months. They went on strike for 9 months in 2020, 2 years after, barely 2 years. I mean, just 2021, they were in the classrooms. February 2022, they're on strike again. This is the 3rd month and running. What if the government refuses? Of course, we know next week is for primaries, the major political parties, APC and PDP, and the government is very concerned about politics over governance at the moment. What if they refuse to come to terms with ASU? Will we see this extend for another 9 months?
Yes, they just extended it. Excuse me, they just extended it recently.
How about the
by another
students?
12 weeks.
Yes, so you had a 4-year term I mean, 4 year to do a particular course in school, and it takes over 6 years.
Collateral damage. And that's what they're saying. So the reason why they're going on strike because they know that students are going to be at home, parents are going to be pressured, then students and parents will pressure the government, and then the government will come to the table and strike a deal. That's what this is about. So, and you can't, it's difficult to really blame some of these lecturers, because when you see stories like 40 billion or whatever being stolen left, right, center, well, allegedly stolen left, right, center, and then you see Minister of Education trying to contest for presidency and is out of the country, these things are pretty much upsetting, and I don't see how you want to stop the lecturers, or you want to blame the lecturers alone for going on strike. They have their reasons.
It'd be quite interesting, because I feel like as the student body has quite a lot of clout when it comes to these negotiations, or should have a lot of clout, because this directly affects them, and considering that they come out in numbers, they should have more of a voice and more clout in these negotiations, but we tend not to see them unless we hear, we're
Yeah, and
going
that's what I'm
to
saying. That's why I said
barricade.
they've been a little they've been a little quiet. They haven't really protested. They have been part of the negotiations one way or the other, but like they said, look, this is the last C of Aluta, which is confrontation. So they are now confronting the government, because they've tried to engage as well. They've tried to be part of the entire process, but it hasn't yielded anything much. So now it's confrontation. So I don't know whether the government will be able to deal with multiple protests and strikes across the country, because if they start with the airport, nobody knows where else this is going to end.
Well, if this does go on, it will be a sight to watch. We're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll be reading your messages. So many of them have come in. Remember, you can send them in across the platforms from our YouTube live stream. Find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. We'll be reading your messages up on that platform. You can also continue to send them in on WhatsApp to 0809 444 981, and on Twitter as well, where we are at Smooth 981 FM.
Point one. Love music, love life.
Okay. So, got this one in from Abiola on Twitter. Let's take it over to you on YouTube. Okay, Joseph Olofinko has sent a message. Oh, that's a number of messages. Okay.
Back up your love with action. Protect everything you care about with Consolidated Hallmark Insurance. Visit chiplc.com to get started.
All right, and we are back
Insurance
in
with Consolidated Hallmark
5,
Insurance.
4,
This
3,
is Smooth
2,
98.1.
1. Coming back with your messages, going over to Twitter, where we are at Smooth981 FM. Abiola says, I have no problem with the total ban on some of the listed LGAs. My challenge here is, however, with the absolute enforcement of the directives. Also says, NANS shouldn't have announced their plans to shut major airports across the country to push home their grievances about the ongoing ASU strike and I don't care attitude on the side of the government. Just act, he says, to choke everyone. Wow. All right. And on youtube.com/smooth91fm Lagos, Joseph Olofinkoa says, transportation is a nightmare and needs a total overhaul. It would be good if we started yesterday and have a long-term plan for it made known to all. This banning syndrome isn't helping.
Well, let's take it over to WhatsApp. Ken says Lagos State can't ban Okada. Governor Sanwo-Olu knows this. An Okada man pays at least 1,000 naira per day for tickets in Lagos. The people who would enforce the ban, if any, are both stakeholders and shareholders in the Okada business. This is apart from inadequate public transport system. And Nero Cello sends a message, says, I feel there's more to this AGF's 80 billion naira case coming up just before primary elections. And EK Peter sends a message, says Nigeria cannot enforce its laws. This is one attribute of a failed state. Some of the police officers operate these bikes. Will they ban themselves? The questions keep coming in.
Yeah, so you are making certain noises while we're having the conversation. I was wondering what you wanted to interject, but it looks like the The listeners and viewers are saying it for you. All right. From the Premium Times, federal government makes U-turn, withdraws amended charges against Nnamdi Kanu and defense lawyers. Now, the amended charge that was filed against him barely 24 hours earlier had also listed two of the IPOB leaders' lawyers, Ifeanyi Ejiofor and Maxwell Clara, as accomplices in the terrorism-related case. Now, Mr. C, please, can you take us through what is going on here?
Okay, so at the resumed court sitting of the trial of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafran organization, Mazin Nnamdi Kanu, the federal government had filed an amended charge listing his lawyers, members of his legal team, as being accomplices and alleging that they were in contact with him when he was on the run and the government was looking for him. But at the resumed court sitting, the judge made it clear that the matter had tarried for far too long on her cause list,
Okay.
and because it was fixed for trial, she wasn't going to entertain the amended charge. So the federal government lawyer withdrew the application for the amended charge, and they proceeded with business.
Now, by the way, so looking at the counsel for the defendant said we were only served with two hefty volumes of the amended charge just yesterday, whilst the judge said, I'm seeing my own amended charge this morning. I did not know there was an amended charge.
So this is part of the government's playbook, because we need to understand something. It's one thing to file charges in court. It's another thing to have the evidence to support the charges. And take your mind back to the Dasuki trial. It's the same sequence of events. Make noise, disturb the airwaves with all sorts of allegations. When you get your day in court, you're unwilling to prepare. You're unwilling to proceed. Now, why would you file amended charges a day or two before the sitting, knowing fully well that the defense team has to go through the amended charges to advise their client on how to plead? Meanwhile, the judge is not even aware the proposed amended charges.
These on us.
And this is a government that supposedly believes that he is guilty of all the charges listed against him. It just goes to show you that sometimes there's a difference between what you read on the pages of newspapers and what the actual reality is. You would have thought that having gotten him back from Kenya through whatever means they employed, they will be quick and serious in pushing their case and getting a judgment against him. But it looks like they continue to drag, because at the end of the day, what is required is not a legal solution, it is a political solution. He's just a poster boy for a school of thought, for an ideology. And even though they have prescribed IPOP, they cannot prescribe that school of thought. So we need to sit down. It's part of the larger question of restructuring Nigeria. And until those questions,
But is it a conversation we're willing to have? It keeps coming up again and again, and then never going away.
So-
But people are ignoring it.
no. So people are not exactly ignoring it, but it's not been as easy as it was previously envisaged or initially envisaged to have that conversation. But that conversation will happen. Remember that a number of things in the proposed constitutional amendment have been moved from the exclusive list onto the concurrent list. Now, the states now realize that they need to get serious about generating revenue and taking more control, taking charge of their own affairs, that they can't leave it to the center.
All right, let's take a look at the punch, and I'll stick with you, Mr. C, for this. 80 billion naira fraud. EFCC uncovers 17 properties linked to Accountant General, tracing them. This is according to what the punch is lined. Now, and it seems like all of this came about for the love of a woman, or a girl, 16 years old. It was not that he came under scrutiny last year following allegations that he had offered huge sums of money to a family in order to secure the marriage of their 16-year-old daughter, basically saying that, look, go anywhere in Adukujo, find a house, I'll buy it for you, amongst other things. Mr. C, your thoughts?
So again, I struggle to understand what EFCC is trying to achieve here. If you've gotten all this information, why are you making it public? Why you not proceed? Why, if you have this information, can you not file at least one charge and get the guy caught? Now, bigger question is, as you announce discoveries like this, for the discoveries you are yet to make, does it not strike a chord that the people behind it, if truly there is a crime or there's a series of crimes, will take the necessary steps to remove the evidence.
To see what I'll ask you is, considering the pattern that we see of coming to the media with all of these things, and yet somehow, when it comes to the prosecution, things falling by the wayside, with even judges saying, "Come on, prosecution, what are you doing?" Does it start to look intentional, or is it intentional or incompetence,
So,
or is there a third we haven't thought of?
so it's hard to say. In some circumstances, it leans towards incompetence. In some other circumstances, it leans towards public embarrassment. It's designed to embarrass you so that people will think the worst of you. But when push comes to shove, they cannot establish the charges.
Nick from our Papa sends a message. He says, please, Mr. C, please note we cannot get into Tinkan or Papa to meet up with appointments without Okada. Else you get there after, they've closed, after they've closed, because the trucks will frustrate your life.
And Shagun says, too many eventualities that may stall your movements in Lagos traffic. He says, he feels your views are a bit narrow and not holistic enough. Although Okada is not a veritable means of commercial transportation, and if things had been done as supposed to have been done, Okada would never have thrived in the first place. But he's basically saying where we are is still fit for purpose. And Dami from Ikorodu says the failure of the state to properly resource and manage transportation has created the market for Okada. The ban is simply the classism of the Lagos political elite to win votes. Let's see how fast the commercial motorcyclists will return to the streets after the elections.
We still see your messages, but let's squeeze this story in from the Punch newspaper. No hike in electricity tariffs. NEC being the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, has clarified that reviews do not automatically translate into an increase in electricity tariff. Mr. Ugo, when you saw this story, what crossed your mind?
Yeah, it's just a clarification. Typically, when electricity tariffs are meant to be increased or actually reduced, which the law actually provides, you have a tariff review, and it's done twice yearly, and that review takes into consideration changes in inflation rate, exchange rate, and some of the core indices, and that is now filtered into a model that determines what the new tariff will be. And as everybody knows, I mean, every business, when there's increase in inflation rate or exchange rate, businesses typically adjust. Either you adjust your prices or you adjust your volumes, just so that you can still make a decent margin and so that you can continue to be in business. And that's what this is about. The reason why it's NERC, it's that electricity prices are highly regulated, and so NERC has to sit down with the discos and to agree on tariff increase. So, but the point is, it usually results in increases, and so what they're just saying is that it doesn't necessarily need to, but it does result in increases.
When they make these adjustments, Mr. Ugo, it goes upwards and never comes down.
Yeah, because your inflation rate never goes down, does it?
Sometimes, yeah, it just
No.
hovers.
Wouldn't
It
that
just
then
hovers.
be
Always up.
deflation?
Exactly.
It
So
hovers.
inflation rate goes up, and it's been going up, for a
It
while.
just goes up so
yeah. And then
less
the
or
exchange
more,
rate
right?
as well never goes down.
Exactly, but the Nigerians are also complaining. If you gave a commiserate amount of power supply, then we wouldn't complain about the tariff increases.
Chicken and egg situation. There we go again.
On that note, we end the show. We've come to the end, gentlemen. You can find watching. No, we haven't come to the end because
Yeah,
it never ends. It never ends. It goes up on Twitter at Smooth981FM. That's where you can find us. At Monsieur C and his teal. Make sure you check him out on Instagram and on Twitter. He is at Monsieur C with a triple E, and at Ugo Dre as well. It's so great to have your voice back on the show. Come back every Thursday, Ugo Dre. We're watching you.
We'll try.
And thank you. You can go catch the replay up on youtube.com/smooth91FM. Lagos coming up 8:15. It will be the grapevine.
Hallmark Insurance.
We wasn't take half of the message.
Two stories I did.